Hey everybody, Akamatzu here. Back with another thoughts video. Today I want to share my thoughts on the latest chapter in Dead by Daylight Forged in Fog, which just released on November 22nd. I got to play it for about a solid 8 hours. I also played it I think for about 8 hours on the PTB, and I wanted to share my opinions on what I thought about it. So to get it out of the way really fast, I think this chapter overall is a little bit unexciting, and I don't really know why, I'd have to say. But it just wasn't as exciting as, let's say, the last one, which had Wesker, but maybe that's because of brand recognition and Resident Evil is just, a brand that's been around for a long time. But this one just hasn't really stuck with me. Now, I think the Knight looks really cool. I think the new Survivor looks really cool. I won't lie, I don't really care for the new map, but that's just a taste thing. Victorian style areas have never really been my preferred setting and stuff, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's bad, right? I'm not saying it's bad, it's just not my preferred aesthetic, and I think that's okay. It does seem like the new map in this update overall has brought on a lot of glitches and stuff into the game. I've seen people say like the pallet density in the map is too much, and it feels that way when you play it as killer. Especially, you see pallets literally everywhere, and it feels kind of wrong. I don't know if what they're saying is true or not, but it does feel that way. The new killer themselves, in terms of like how their power works, I don't think is the most interesting way. It feels basically like a weaker artist. Like, general idea is the same, cut off the loop uh for the survivor kind of differently, but kind of the same. And the way he's designed by the devs feels like it's not the most effective way to play him. Like, and he seems like he has the same problems that Pinhead does. Like, when you're using the path and you're using the chains, right, as Pinhead, you're not moving. Therefore, you're sending out something, but if you miss the chains with Pinhead, then you just wasted your time and the survivor got further away. And it's the same with the Knight. When you're sending out the path or patrol, you're not moving. Therefore, the survivor is just holding W and getting away faster. And if that path ends up doing nothing, then it's all just a waste of time. So the most effective way to play them is to do it just like Pinhead and not use your power until you're like right at them, right? You've probably seen it where you've used Pinhead's power and you land a chain, but it doesn't really feel like it does anything, right? Or you use his power and it misses completely and it feels like a big waste of time. The Knight feels like that too. Unfortunately, I still don't feel like his knights have that much characteristics between them too to make them really feel like cycling through them makes that a big deal from the killer's perspective. So unfortunately, it just comes off as kind of uninteresting. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I think we'll dive into the perks and stuff just to give my general view on it. I think the Knight does have the better perks in this update. I think Nowhere to Hide is arguably the best perk of this update, where if you run it, basically it gets rid of those situations where you approach a gen, you see its progress on it, you can't find the survivor, and you feel like you can't stay there long because you have to go pressure other gens. This perk kind of alleviates that. If they're hiding in a locker, then it doesn't do anything, right? But if they're hiding nearby, this perk allows you to find them and continue the chase. I easily think it's the most powerful perk this update, and I think it's very good. Hex Face the Darkness, while I do think the information it gives you is pretty constant, the fact that it doesn't have a sound notification, maybe it's good because it's so constant, but I think it's easy to miss that information. And as a hex, compared to other hexes, it doesn't feel as, let's say, powerful. So most of the time when it gets cleansed, I often don't even really care. So, a little weak in my opinion. Hubris, I think, is good, but I don't think it's good on its own. Because I think after you get pallet stun, I don't think... Or stunned. Like, if you get stunned by Decisive Strike, that person was already weak, so Exposed doesn't really do anything anyway. You know what I mean? unless yeah, because there's no real chance they can decisive strike you at full HP, so that doesn't really mean anything. And I guess against head on, it's good because the stun's only 3 seconds. But a pallet stun, that time remaining, I don't think you really have enough time to use it. But when you pair it with other things like Enduring and Spirit Fury, or one or the other, then it becomes really good. And I think this is a pretty decent perk. I don't think it's OP, but I do think it's pretty great. And unfortunately, I don't really have many good things to say on the Survivor side, really. I think the new Survivors perks kind of are generally all bad. I think potential energy is just a big waste of time. It takes you, without any skill checks, 30 seconds to get 20 tokens. Now, that's without skill checks, so it could potentially be shorter. And if you get hit, you lose all that work. So it takes a 90-second gen 2 minutes now, 120 seconds. And then if you get hit on the process to the other gen, well, then you just wasted your time. You end up saving what, 10? There's a 10-second difference, right? You're spending 30 seconds to get 20 seconds. And it just doesn't really feel like it's worth it. I tried to get it to work and use many builds, and I just really, it felt like a hassle trying to get this thing to work. And ultimately, I just think it's a waste of time. Fog-wise, I think it's pretty cool, and I think it's his strongest perk, really. It allows you to get more information. You know, pair it with alert, and you'll kind of always know where the killer is and make decisions based upon that and be able to, accurately go about your game. But the problem is it's kind of hard to judge that because the changes or like the information it's given you is relative to what's going on. So at a face value, it's like, okay, 6 seconds aura reading, but what does that really mean? It doesn't really mean anything until you're in the game. So at a paper value, it doesn't really seem as enticing as others, but I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just different. But I do think it's his best perk. And Quick Gamut, I think, is a bad perk as well because it rewards the survivor that's working on a generator when you are being chased within 24 meters of that gen. But you don't really want to willingly bring the killer near a generator, if possible, because the killer should prioritize the person that's on the gen, especially if that person you're chasing is uninjured and they're not going to down them quickly. So it doesn't really make sense to me why you would ever really want to run this. Maybe I'm not seeing the big picture, but I think the survivors perks are a bit on the weaker side, really. And I think that's where I'm going to end my thoughts videos. Overall, it seems like it's just not as exciting as the other chapters, unfortunately. The map, again, just to summarize the map, I'm not really that excited about. The new killer, I think he looks cool aesthetically, but I think his power needs to be a bit tweaked or changed. The new survivors perks are kind of boring, and I can't really even see them being potentially useful outside of the aura reading one, fog-wise. And unfortunately, it just seems like a lacking update. So, what do you think? Are you excited for this update? Are you not excited for this update? Oh, and there's a lot of bugs. Like, there's a wiggle bug. The killer's power, like, I got knocked out of it with a pallet stun. It, like, leaves the effects of his power. Like, there was a flag that just sat on the ground when the killer was using it, and there's like all kinds of like hicks going on right now, so that's unfortunate. But what do you think? Are you liking the chapter? Are you not liking the chapter? Let me know down in the comments below, and thanks for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one. Stay crunchy, amigos.